2, 3, 4.
Rev up your engines!
Well, there certainly seems to be a lack of imagination in the car world. Subaru just showed this electronic crossover vehicle that they're making, and really, it looks like a Touchless cybertruck. Have they no imagination? Can't they think on their own? I guess not. When I was young, cars had those fins on them, and they kept making the fins bigger and bigger, and eventually, they had these gigantic fins on the things. They served no purpose whatsoever, but they all just kept making them bigger and bigger and copy each other. You know, they're kind of like, talk about a line of sheep, and they're all following each other, seeing what the sheep in the front does, and they do exactly the same thing. Now, it's going to be called the XV Crosstrek, and it's going to be a co-development of Subaru and Toyota. Toyota also has stuff going with Mazda, so I mean, there's all this crazy mixture, but you know, Toyota's got deals going with Subaru because those little Toyota sports cars, they're just rebadged Subaru, so they got deals going back and forth. I just find it hilarious, though, that the thing looks almost exactly like a Cybertruck. These guys have no imagination, you know? All they do is follow each other around like a bunch of sheep. Jerry Ragsdale 51 says, I put a $500 deposit on a car while I finished the bank loan. Found out the car had been structurally damaged, but a clean title. Dealer tells me I can't get my deposit refunded. Well, now, should I buy it? It's a 2016 Civic LX with 98,000 miles for $8,500. What should I do? Okay, one, typical dealer, they're asking way too much money. $8,500 for a Civic with almost 100,000 miles is ridiculous. That's way too much money. But guess what? There's laws in this country. Now, I don't know what state you're in, but here in Texas, they have to tell you about any wreck the car was in. They cannot hide that information. They must disclose it. They have a full disclosure law. And I had a customer, like the car, but then he was sideswiped by one of these lawn mowing guys. His trailer smashed into the side. Took it to my body guy, and the body guy says, you know, that car's been wrecked before. And he said, what do you mean? He says, well, it's got a Taiwanese bumper on it, and it's a Japanese car. It came with a Japanese bumper, so it's been wrecked before. He was a lawyer. He went back to the Honda dealer and said, you sold me a car was wrecked, and you didn't tell me. And he tried to say it was just minor damage. He said, BS, and he showed him the law. Guess what? They gave him $5,000 back. They asked him what he wanted, and he was a lawyer. He said, I'll take $5,000 compensation. They gave him a $5,000 check on the spot. So check your local laws. There are full disclosure laws that dealers have to tell you when they're selling you a used car. They didn't tell you it was wrecked. You can get your money back. You got to get a lawyer? Hey, tell them you're going to get a lawyer. Not only will they have to give you $500 back, but they're going to have to pay legal fees if you take them to court. And in some states, it's triple damages. So sometimes it's triple what they're selling you the car for. So they'll generally give you your $500 back then. Just find out about the disclosure laws in your area. Billy Bob Knows Nothing says, I got a 2012 Toyota Avalon. I had a mechanic replace my automatic transmission and the transmission control module with the used unit. And now when I'm driving, sometimes it just stops running while I'm going down the road. And it's got PO 705 and C1201. You're taking a big gamble putting in used parts. Used transmission's a big gamble, but especially the transmission control module. That computer, that's a big gamble to buy used too. With those codes, anytime I've ever seen those codes on an Avalon, was a problem with the transmission control module. Now, what you want to do is have whoever did the work check it closely. Maybe he didn't plug things in right, or I've seen it where when people take the transmission off and then they put the used one on, there's wires hanging all over the place, and sometimes the wires will get squashed when the transmission's bolted to the engine, and it'll short out the TCM. Then you got to replace the TCM and fix the wires that got squashed. Take it back to whoever did the work. Have them check the transmission control module, and first check all the wires to see if any of them got crushed. I see that happen all the time. It's a hellacious job pulling a transmission off and putting another one back on. And a lot of times, all those wires hanging there, some of them get crunched in, and that'll be the problem. Now, of course, to fix it the right way, you'd have to take it all apart again, which would cost a fortune. Most guys will just cut the wires where they're broken and crushed in, and then just solder new wires together on the two ends that they cut off and just leave the broken ones in there. It won't hurt anything. You got to check that first, because I see that happen all the time. Nate Nitro says, Scotty, hope you're well. What do you think of a Ford standard transmission? So I'm looking at a Ford Focus CC 2007 convertible hardtop, 60,000 miles, going for $7,000 to $8,000 in Canada. Mechanic checked out, it's good. What do you think of them? With a standard transmission, they're decent cars. They're not fantastic cars. And you live in Canada, where things cost more. I don't know if I'd pay $7-8 for a 13-year-old Focus. You know, that's one of their cheaper cars to begin with. But you're going to pay more in Canada for sure. And it is a standard transmission. I mean, here in Texas, a car like that would go for like $3,000, maybe $3-4 tops. You live in Toronto, a big city with money. It's a convertible, and it's spring coming up now. The price of the convertible always goes up. Here's my advice: you want to buy a convertible, buy in the dead of winter. Then the prices of them go down. Spring comes up, they always charge more for them. I mean, if you like the car, go ahead and get it, but I'd pay a lot less for that thing. It's an old 13-year-old Ford Focus. They're not worth that much money. But with the standard, they can be okay. They were horrible with automatics. But with the standards, I got customers here with the standards, and I got a guy's got 160 on his, and it's still running pretty good. And that's 160,000 miles, not kilometers. So it could last quite some time if you don't mind that high price. But try to pay less. Billy Bob's a flying says, got a 2005 Chevy Silverado V8. It starts and stalls and then says, new communication. And I had this problem right after a guy put a new fancy Android radio in my truck. Those things, I don't know where these engineers have their heads on those things. The starting and running system of that vehicle is actually wired through the radio. I don't know, they come up with the squirreliest ideas, these engineers. When a guy put that aftermarket radio in, I've seen them where they won't even start when they put them in. What you want to do is get a regular, if your old radio broke, get a regular factory radio, have it installed, and it jives with the computer system so it starts and runs. Now let's say you just put in the Android radio because you wanted a better radio and your old one worked. Just put the old one back in and you'll find this thing will work perfectly fine. It's kind of the first time I worked on one of those, I thought, what the heck is going on with this car? And then I found out that somebody replaced the radio, and the radio system is part of the starting system. They come up with some of the squirreliest ideas on the planet, and yours is one of them. So what the heck? If your old radio worked, put it back in and forget the fancy one, because that's part of the starting system of the vehicle. It's nuts, but that's what those engineers came up with. Jerome 10 says, got an 05 Honda Civic. My speedometer doesn't work and it doesn't have any check engine light on. I fixed zillions of those now. Speedometers are a relatively simple system. They used to have a cable, was real simple. Cable brake, you replace the cable. Well, yours has what's called the vehicle speed sensor that's on a transmission, then just wires that go to the dash where the odometer spins around and the speedometer. Odds are you just need a vehicle speed sensor. Any mechanic or anybody with a cheap scan tool could hook it up and drive it around. Then you look at the vehicle speed. If it shows no vehicle speed, it just stays at 0, then odds are it's the vehicle speed sensor. Just buy one and put it on. Now, if it shows the speed, then it means that your dash unit has gone bad, which is very expensive. But on those, it's almost always the vehicle speed sensor. And you get those things even at AutoZone's, any discount auto parts store. They just bolt on and off, and they can show you a picture, print it out. AutoZone's do that free. Sell you the sensor, and then you can just pop it in and out. There's one bolt holding it in, it pops in and pops out. Happens all the time in those. Corona Boy says, Scotty, been a fan for years. Found a black 2012 VW Beetle, 2.5 liter, 86,000 miles with a 5-speed manual for $39.99 at a dealer in Miami. Is it reliable? Yeah, it's reliably gonna break down all the time. I'll tell you that from my experience. Those things are endless money pits. Absolute endless money pits. They don't make them anymore. Now, it does have a standard transmission, so it's a lot better than the ones with the automatic transmission, but it's still an endless money pit Volkswagen with high technology built with low quality that breaks down and costs a fortune to repair. Don't waste your money on that vehicle. Nobody wants those VW Beetles. They are just endless money pits. They look cute, that's how they sold the things, but even Volkswagen stopped making them because they had such a bad reputation that Volkswagen even walked away from it. Johnny Chevelle 1971 says, taking out of storage a 1971 Chevelle, turns over, won't start. It's got spark, it's got fuel going to the carburetor. Help. You get an old car like that. It's a 71, okay, so it's carbureted. You said you're getting fuel to the carburetor. Put a gauge on it, should make sure it's got at least 1.5 psi pressure. But if it is getting gas to the carburetor, my experience with those old things are, most of the time, the carburetor's internally clogged up from sitting, and it's not sending fuel into the car. So what you want to do is just open the choke, spray some starting fluid while somebody cranks it. If it starts and dies, you know the carburetor's gone. Old thing like that, I generally throw the carburetors away and put on a Edelbrock 4-barrel. You can get them decent prices, AutoZone, online, anywhere, and they just bolt on. If it's not the carburetor, a lot of times the gas has just gone bad. You let something sit for years, the gas goes bad, and it won't explode right, and the car won't start. I've had so many people told me, old cars, and the gas tank's full of crud and sludge, and the gas is no good, and everything's clogged up. Then you got to either pull the tank, clean it, or put another tank on, new filter, new pump, new everything. If that gas is flowing to the carburetor at least 1.5 psi, it's the carburetor itself. It's just clogged up because, you know, they're just Venturi. Air pressure sucks through them. Not much air pressure, and you get sludge plugging up the little holes. It won't start.
So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.